So many great things you could say about AEW right now. The way that they're attracting millions of fans around the world has been really impressive, despite the fact that they've actually only been in business for 2 years. But the good news is today we have some really good AEW news. A couple different stories I want to talk about. Bryan Danielson not being able to use the YES Chants in AEW. We're going to talk a little bit about Cody Rhodes, who says he will never turn heel again, and why I think he's lying. Also, today we're going to cap things off with Kenny Omega teasing more WWE Superstars in AEW. Ultimately, some really good stuff, and I can't wait to hear your opinions. So make sure you guys drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, get notified, join the Discord server. DPW continues to grow every single day, and I greatly appreciate your guys' support. So with that being said, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about Cody Rhodes first. Cody Rhodes recently revealed that he has no plans to ever turn heel again. Now, this is really interesting stuff because that is like reaching John Cena levels of fame, despite the fact that Cody Rhodes is obviously not as famous as John Cena. But you get my point. John Cena has yet to turn heel in WWE, and it's something that we all want to see. And I see a lot of comparisons between Cody Rhodes and John Cena, which actually, believe it or not, I kind of see a similarity. I know you guys might not actually agree with that, but Cody Rhodes completely comes off as the right man to lead AEW as a babyface figure. But with that being said, I really, really enjoy Cody Rhodes' work as a heel. And with him coming out talking about never turning heel again, I just don't know if I genuinely believe it, because last week on Destination PW, if you guys missed it, I talked about it in video form where I can see Cody Rhodes turning heel against Malachi Black, and this is what allows him to get the win at AEW Grand Slam. Now, the reason why I often bring up the comparisons between Cody Rhodes and John Cena is because AEW doesn't really have their own version of John Cena just yet. And I'm not necessarily sure if they need to have their own version of John Cena, but we have seen that WWE's formula with John Cena does work. It moves merchandise, it brings in a massive mainstream audience. And one of the similarities I see between the two is that Cody Rhodes has been taking on a very hands-on approach to the world outside of wrestling. So we see him on the TNT TBS show. I think it's called the Big Show or whatever it is. He's a judge on there. We know that he's been getting into film and acting. So it's one of those things. He's been pretty open about that. I do see those similarities between him and John Cena, but when it comes to massive popularity, there's no doubt within my mind that John Cena is far more popular. With Cody Rhodes not turning heel or claiming to not turn heel, I think that's really just a way for him to potentially, get people shocked. I think AEW loves to do the shock factor type of things, and I think with Cody Rhodes turning heel, at this point it would be like, wow, that's kind of unexpected, but also I think it is necessary to prolong certain storylines, because at this point, Cody Rhodes is putting a lot of people over in AEW, and there was also a period of time where John Cena was doing the same thing. We all saw what happened with Kevin Owens and John Cena, right? So you guys get that, Cody Rhodes is definitely being elevated just by being the front man guy for AEW. He's also doing things outside of AEW, which is great, but I do expect a heel turn despite the fact that he says that's not really likely to happen. Bryan Danielson has been making waves. You guys already know Bryan Danielson has been on an absolute tear since coming to AEW. We know at AEW Grand Slam he's going to go up against Kenny Omega, which is great news. A lot of people have been wanting to see this match ever since, Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson have made a name known for themselves. But here's the big thing. Bryan Danielson was recently on the Wrestling Podcast, which is a Barstool Sports podcast. And basically, Bryan Danielson goes on to say that he spoke with Kevin Dunn before his AEW debut, and that he actually was asked not to use their intellectual property. This is the YES Chants. Now, the thing is, the YES Chants were going to happen regardless, because the fans obviously acknowledge where he came from. The YES Chants definitely made Daniel Bryan a star in WWE, and it's obvious that it's going to continue to follow him for years to come. What this means, though, is that Bryan Danielson will not be making his entrance leading the YES Chants. So as you can imagine, that And this is where it gets tricky, and he kind of even mentioned it in the interview about the legalities of it. Like, nobody really knows if WWE can enforce it, but it does go to show you how respectful of a guy Bryan Danielson really is, and he gets all the praise here. The way he speaks about WWE and Vince McMahon and everybody, AEW fans don't like it because everybody is so anti-WWE, but Bryan Danielson is a human being. He obviously had great success there. He had a great relationship with Vince. He has a lot of great things to say about Vince McMahon. And on top of that, he has a lot of great things to say about Tony Khan. This guy just genuinely loves what he's doing. He loves the business. He loves that he's part of this change. And you know what? The Yes Chants are great, but I don't really care if Bryan Danielson walks down to the ring doing Yes Chants. We already know when the music hit, the Yes Chants were perfectly synced to his entrance song. I was there in Chicago. It was just unbelievable. So, you know what? Maybe he won't be able to use these chants. He might not be able to lead them, but the good news is the fans are going to keep it alive anyways. And on top of that, look at WWE, AEW, Impact. I mean, look at all of these different wrestling companies. The Yes Chant has become a major staple of it all, regardless of a wrestler actually leading the chants. Good stuff by Bryan Danielson. We become a bigger fan of him every single day. The more that he talks great about WWE, it's a sign to come of what he's going to say about AEW when his career is all said and done. And that's why I find it to be so important. All right, guys, Kenny Omega had recently done an interview with a publication out in Japan, and this was translated to English, but basically what Kenny Omega was saying was that he believes 90% of WWE wrestlers will come to AEW, or they want to come to AEW. And the great thing here is Kenny Omega has talked a little bit about this before, about AEW just kind of being a true alternative to WWE. But when you listen to this, when you look at this interview with Kenny Omega and talking about this, I really don't see how he's lying. He talks about, he says like more of them, like right now they've signed a fair share of them, but we could probably expect more. And the good thing is, when I look at what Kenny Omega is doing, Kenny Omega is a heel in AEW, yet the way he presents himself outside of AEW when he's doing interviews or whatever it may be, he actually looks and thinks like a business person, which is great because sometimes you get so invested into the character that you forget what he actually does outside of it. With Kenny Omega taking the lead on AEW with Tony Khan and Cody and the Young Bucks, this dynamic, for whatever reason, right now, it's working. And it's a reason why people in WWE want to go to AEW. It's all about leadership, and I always bring up a real life example. I had a real job. I decided to quit my job and go to YouTube full time. The reason why I decided this was because I wanted to see what I can do with the ideas that I have. Now, at the end of the day, that is what Tony Khan and the guys at AEW have done. They had ideas and they took a chance on themselves. And the good thing is, when you look at WWE, WWE is here to stay forever. There is no way that WWE is going to die. Until AEW or any wrestling company truly impacts the amount of money that WWE has, we shouldn't really expect WWE to ever go away. But with that being said, there's going to be a lot of guys in that locker room who are going to want to do what I did or what, Tony Khan did. And they're going to want to do something that they feel is best for them. And truthfully, why would you not go to AEW? The good news is this interview was released before Grand Slam. We've been talking about special surprises, debuts happening. It's really up to AEW and see how they deliver, but Grand Slam is going to be great. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to see who debuts next. There's talks of Kevin Owens possibly leaving WWE early next year, Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, Buddy Murphy. I mean, the list goes on. And tonight should be a good indication of what is next for AEW. And hopefully AEW continues this up in the long term because that's what's going to make them very special in 10, 15 years. All right, guys, let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, ring the bell, get notified on all the latest content right here on Destination PW. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.